Good morning, class. Let me know if I am audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So, today's topic would be on network of networks. Okay, understanding this phrase is a key understanding to the internet. All right, today under this we will be learning about ISPs, totally about ISPs. All right, so ISP stands for Internet Service Provider. So we are going to see what are the types of ISPs, how would they give internet access to the other ISPs, all those things today in today's concept called as network of networks. So over the year, the network has evolved into a very complex structure. We can't even imagine to think how complex this network of networks is, the internet is. All right. So it started with the simple ARPANET, with just a university where they used to exchange emails. From that single point, it is now very huge, which is now not even imaginable, so vast. All right, it's a very complex structure. So you have to understand the basic phrase of networks to understand the whole internet. So we will see how to take this on further. So as I said, we will be completely talking about this concept called as ISP. Okay, concept called as ISP. All right, there are three variations of this ISP. They are tier 1 ISP, all right, tier 2 and tier 3. Now we will see where this tier 1 falls, where this tier 2 falls, and where this tier 3 falls in a complete structure. So your tier 1 ISPs fall in the center. Then comes the tier 2 ISPs. Then comes the tier 3 ISPs. Now we are going to see what these tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 are. So tier 1 ISPs are otherwise called as local ISP or access ISP. So this need not be always a telecom company or a cable company. So a telecom company or a cable company, it need not be always. It could be a university or a school or a corporate giving internet access, providing internet access. So tier 1 are called as local ISPs, or they are otherwise called as access ISPs. They are telecom companies, cable companies, universities or corporates which provides internet. All right. So they connect the end users. So from end users connect to the tier 1. All right, wherein in turn this tier 1 connects to tier 2 ISPs. So the tier 2 ISPs are otherwise called as regional ISPs. Okay, it's otherwise called as regional ISP. So tier 1 gets internet facility from tier 2. So in this case, tier 1 becomes the customer and tier 2 companies becomes the provider of the internet. So the customers had to pay some ransom to get the internet access. Here, end users will pay some ransom to tier 1 companies. In case of tier 1, end users will pay tier 1 companies in order to avail the internet, wherein tier 1 in turn takes internet facility from tier 2. So tier 1 has to pay tier 2 for availing that. Then comes the last one, which are tier 3. They are called as international ISP, and they are said to be the backbone of the internet, because these companies lay the under ocean or undersea cables. So tier 2 in turn gets internet facility from tier 3. All right. So coming on to the examples here. So the examples of tier 1 company. So end users are connected here. The examples are, for example, Hathway. All right. Some university like I am availing now I am availing internet connection from PES. PES might be availing from somebody else. All right, so I am availing the university. So I am connected to the local ISP now, right? So it could be anything else. It is always not only the telecom as an local ISP. It could be anything one of this. All right. The regional ISPs are the major telecom providers, and also there are companies. All right. So I would say BSNL, Bharati, which is Airtel, Reliance. All right. Tata Communications. So they all other than these known ones, there are even third party corporate companies which falls under regional ISPs. All right. So these regional ISPs provide internet to the tier 1, which are the local ISPs. Coming to international ISPs, there are only dozens of companies that fall under this international ISP standard, which are really the backbone. All right. So if the tier 2 avails from tier 3, then only tier 1 can avail from tier 2, and then only the end users can get the internet facility. So it is just connected, everything is connected. So only there are dozen of companies available. Few I would like to mention. Have you heard of AT&T? This is a company. Its full form is American Telecom and Telegraphs. So this is one company which falls under international ISP. There's one more called as Sprint. There's one more called as Verizon, and NTT Data. All right. Earlier there was CNW also, cable and wireless also. I don't know if still it's part of international ISP. There are only dozens, like 13. When I learned it was only 13. Probably now there are changes in the number. All right. So these are certain companies which provide, which falls under tier 3. They are called as international ISPs, right? So this is an overall view of what an ISP is. So you avail internet services from an internet service provider. All right. So in this case, all right, tier 3 will provide internet access to tier 2. Tier 2 in turn will provide internet access to tier 1. How these tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 are connected are, there are two terminologies that you should remember. Number one is POP. Okay, POP is nothing but point of presence. So this is one terminology that you need to remember when it comes to how these tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 are interconnected. So point of presence is nothing but an interface point between the communicating entities. So this is one terminology. One more terminology that you need to remember is IXP. This also falls as an interface between the communicating entities, but the work of this is IXP is Internet Exchange Point. Internet Exchange Point. So it's a physical infrastructure through which ISPs and CDN exchange internet traffic. So I just want to mention one more in the international ISP. When it comes to international ISP, the tier 3 ones, it's not only these companies, the CDNs also fall, content development networks also fall under international ISPs. Content development network like Google, Microsoft, Akamai, all these content development networks falls under tier 3 because they provide content. All these will be, so hope you can recollect where we saw this content development network in our web technologies. We never installed any of the React download it. We just used it from the content development network, or when it comes to jQuery or something like that, we just used the content from the Google. All right, so they have content, we are just going to use them. So content development networks are also part of tier 3. All right, whole put together, this is what we are going to see in today's class. So to repeat, ISP, internet service providers, they are of 3 types: tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3. Tier 1 are otherwise called as local ISP or access ISP. All right, they are connected to the end users, so the end users have to pay some ransom to these local ISPs to avail internet. They need not be always the telecom companies. When you think, it could be cables or the universities or certain corporates who give internet access, right? Then it comes to tier 2. Tier 2 is otherwise called as regional ISP. So all our major, companies like BSNL, Airtel, Reliance, Tata fall under this regional ISPs. So in this case, tier 1 is availing internet from tier 2. So tier 2 becomes the provider, tier 1 becomes the customer. So customer has to pay some ransom to the provider. When it comes here, when it comes to tier 3, these are certain companies. So tier 1 in turn will pay the tier 3 companies. So there are only dozens. They are the backbone. Okay. Nowadays even CDN falls under tier 3. CDN companies are like Google, Microsoft and Akamai. So these are things. So how these all tiers are interconnected? Only two. So you have to only remember two, what is this, terminologies, POP and IXP. POP stands for point of presence. It's an interface point between the communicating entities. IXP stands for Internet Exchange Point. It's a physical infrastructure through which ISPs and CDN exchange internet traffic. All right, so this is the gist that we are going to see today. Let's move on to the PPTs. I'll close this for now. Hope you can see this slides. So today is about network of networks. So end systems connect to internet via access ISPs. They are not only the telecom companies. Okay. They are residential, it's not only, just a minute. Something is happening. It's like, let me take. Okay, fine. They are not only cable or the telecom companies. They are university or other third-party companies who avail in who provide internet. So access ISPs in turn must be interconnected, so that any two hosts can send packets to each other. So they have to be interconnected. So in that case, if you interconnect many networks, the resulting network is going to be very complex. All right. This complex structure is evolved from a single point, and now it's unimaginable. So this evolution was only driven by economics and national policies. As a need, they started, increasing the complexity of the structure. So we are going to see the step-by-step evolution of this networks now. All right. So just there's a inside you can see the ISP meaning here. It's a company. Basically, when we say ISP, you have to relate it to a company or a corporate or an enterprise that provides individuals or other companies access to the internet. In order to avail that access, you have to pay them. All right. And other related services like website building and virtual hosting also can be associated with an ISP, and everything there is a ransom that to be paid. So we talked about what are the tier 3 ISPs as well, right? So question, given millions of access ISPs, how to connect them together? We'll think of now. You have all these AccessNet, I mean to say they are local networks. You need to connect all these local network together. How will you do that? One point is you can think of doing this way. You can link everything together, and this is going to be a very tedious task and very complex one also, in terms of analysis, in terms of where error, where it has happened, congestion, all those things. It is so difficult to analyze on this particular scenario what I'm showing you. You can't have this structure just to get connected. So this net to this net or this net to this net, a link between these two them. It's not a brilliant way of doing it. Connecting directly is not a good way of doing it. All right, because it's the access networks or the local networks are not going to be the same. On daily basis, they might increase. Networks might increase. So they came up with a solution called as global ISP, wherein there would be a global ISP and all the local ISPs will avail internet from them. So this is how we are talking about the evolution steps, okay? Since day by day, the complexity of the network structure increased, they came up with different solutions which was feasible, actually good. So initially they thought of only one global ISP which provides internet to all the local ones across the world. But this also in today's scenario will not be a feasible solution. So this is the first evolution which came. Directly connecting is impossible to think. So they came up with a global ISP solution connecting to all the. So this was the network structure 1 evolution. Coming to network structure 2. Now can you see this global ISP could not be a monopoly. There will be competitors coming in for that. That's how different companies came into existence. Tier 3 companies, like dozens of companies I told you, right? If there's one good business going on, there would definitely be competitors for that. So that's how ISPs were, that global ISPs were again, you know, divided into ISP A, B, C. In this case, in this picture, we have just divided that global ISP into ISP A, B, and C. You can see here the ISPs are not connected, wherein whoever is in one zone of the world will avail internet from them, whoever is on other zone of the world. Like that, they thought of it and they did this. All right, this is network structure 2. What about network structure 3? This is where ISPs were linked. Okay, they use something called as internet exchange points. Can you see this ISP is linked to the other ISP via each and every ISP is via an internet exchange point, and also there could be a peering link. This is also feasible in the network structure 3. In the further evolution of network structure 2, they came up with this concept called as IXP, which is internet exchange points, that you can see in which is connecting the different ISPs, and also there is a peering link. Without an IXP, they thought this also they can implement and see whichever is feasible. That's also fine. So there could be peering links or an IXP. All right. What about network structure 4? So network structure 4, again, when there was a evolution, all right, this is where regional ISPs or the tier 2 ISPs came into existence. So far, we were only talking about the tier 3 ISPs, which was giving internet access. In the later evolutions only, regional ISPs played a role. All right, otherwise it was only directly by the global ISPs. So regional ISPs, the tier 2 ISPs came into picture. They availed internet from the tier 3 and they gave it to the tier 1. Here you should relate access networks to tier 1, regional ISPs to tier 2, and the ISP A, B, C to tier 3. Okay, fine. Then comes an inclusion to the tier 3 when there was too much of services to be provided by the tier 3. A content provided networks also came into picture. So examples are Google, Microsoft, or Akamai. They have their own network. They just provide services. Okay. So if you want to avail them, you have to be content from this. You have to get connected to the internet. So they all fall under tier 3 actually. They are in the higher top layer. So the regional ISPs, can you see the regional ISPs get from them, and in turn the access networks gets from them, or the content can be given to the tier 3 ISPs also. So this structure was evolving day by day like this. This was network structure 5. All right. So all together, the final structure looked like this. There were tier 1 ISPs along with the content provider networks, and there were regional ISPs and there were access ISPs. Access ISPs are tier 1, regional ISPs are tier 2, and the international ISPs are, sorry, did I confuse? Okay, this is tier 3, tier 2 and tier 1. So how this tier 2 and tier 1 are connected to is through IXPs. Earlier there was a terminology called as POPs. As it's evolved, it's replaced by different terminologies. All right. So this is the overall structure. You can see, just try to understand things from this overall structure. One more picture I've given here. Hope you got this just basic underlying structure of guys, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a small disturbance. Sorry. Okay, fine. So we are done with the overall picture of network of networks. Next, we are moving on to a concept called as network performance. Why we have to learn about this concept called as network performance? We have to, obviously, we invent something, we have to test how good it is. All right. How good is the internet? Now, since we are talking about internet, we have to check how good is the internet. All right. So there are certain terms that you need to understand when it comes to how to understand or calculate the network performance. So the terminologies that you will be coming across is bandwidth, throughput, and latency. Okay. So latency is otherwise called as delay. So in delay, you will have various components or various variations. So we will have to learn them also to find the network performance. So let us see an analogy to find, to understand the bandwidth and throughput. All right. Imagine there is a highway that can allow, imagine there is an highway that can allow let's say 1,000 cars per minute. 1,000 cars per minute. So there's an highway that can allow 1,000 cars to travel from one end to the other in a minute. All right. But due to some unfortunate reasons or some traffic or some minor accident, it is allowing only 100 cars per minute. The capacity of it is 1,000 cars, but it is allowing only 100 cars per minute. All right. So you have to relate the capacity to bandwidth and the reality, how much it's passed through to throughput. So in this case, the bandwidth is 1000, but throughput is 100. You got this? Per minute, it can allow 1000 cars traveling via that highway, but it is allowing only 100 cars due to some unfortunate reason. There could be traffic, due to a minor accident, or some work is going on, some road work is going on. Some reason, only 100 cars travel per minute. So the total bandwidth, the total capacity of that highway is 1000, but the throughput is 100. So this is an analogy. All right. So we will see the formal and informal definitions of this one. Where's the eraser? So to conclude, when I talk about a bandwidth, so it's nothing but the capacity of the link. Okay, we'll talk about the informal definition. Informally, you can say the maximum amount of data that can be transmitted per second. Maximum amount of data that can be transmitted per second. So this is an informal definition of bandwidth. When it comes to formal definition of a bandwidth, the bandwidth of a network is given by the number of bits that can be transmitted over a network in a certain period of time. Hope you now got what a bandwidth is. The amount of data that is transmitted in a certain period of time. Okay, normally when it comes to networks, we will only talk in terms of bits. All right, so actually there are two connections, like two types of network connections. It is wired and wireless. So normally they are calculated in bits per second. Wireless, in general terms, they say it's bits per second. Wireless, it's hertz, because they use frequencies, right? For example, if we have 1 GB Ethernet for bandwidth, then that means it can provide 1 Gbps data transmission rate, which means that the bits that can travel in a second can be 1 gigabytes. So normally it is bits per second. If you have there are different categories Ethernet cable. If I talk about a gigabit Ethernet cable, then it is the capacity of it is transmitting, or the data transmission rate of that particular cable is 1 Gbps. All right. This is about bandwidth. We'll talk about throughput. And just give me a moment. Okay, throughput. When it comes to throughput, the reality of how much data can be traveled through a link. All right. So informally, so we will be seeing everything. Don't worry about the differences and all. As we see certain topics, probably your doubts might vanish. So informally, it's just the actual amount of data that passes through a link or a medium. It could be anything, any physical medium. We have learned physical mediums, right? So this is what an informal definition is. A formal definition, you can say it as it is a measure of how fast we can actually send a data through a network. So a formal definition goes like it is a measure of how fast uh, we can actually send data through a network. All right. So in general terms, if I say throughput as T, to throughput will be lesser equal to B. B is nothing but bandwidth. So B is the maximum capacity. T is the actual bits that are transferring through that maximum capacity. All right. So this would be a formal definition for it. So now we'll talk about the latency. So we need to understand all these concepts to get into how calculate the performance. So we'll talk about latency. So latency is nothing but delay. There are four components. Just a minute. There are four components. Number one is I think it's transmission delay. Number two is propagation delay. Number three is queuing delay. Number four is processing delay. These are very, 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 very important. Even if you write your GATE exams or higher studies when you go or placements, there would be definitely questions on latency, how to calculate the latency. So latency involves all these components. There could be a delay in the transmission. When I say delay in the transmission, starting from a bit, from the source to the destination, there could be a transmission delay at the end point itself. So that falls under transmission list. So tomorrow we will see everything in detail with certain numerical problems. All right. Propagation delay, queuing delay, processing delay. So when we want to find the latency, which is end-to-end delay, it is just the combination of transmission delay plus the summation of transmission delay plus propagation delay plus queuing delay plus the processing delay. So the summation of all this together will become the end-to-end delay. So the delay defines how long it takes for an entire message to completely arrive at the destination from the time the first bit is sent out from the source. So in tomorrow's class, we will be seeing about all these delays in detail and how to calculate each and every delay with certain numerical examples. All right. So on just what we saw today is like we saw about network of networks, ISPs, different types, how today's network internet has evolved from the previous ones, all the network structures we saw. Okay, then we saw about network performance, how to arrive or how to calculate it. So in order to calculate or analyze the network performance, how good the network is, we have to learn some uh, terminologies for that. So we saw what a bandwidth is, what a throughput is in layman terms. We also saw what a latency is and the component. So components. So we are going to see in detail. So here what we are going to concentrate is latency, because here's where delays comes into picture. So the total delay will be calculated by the summation of all these three. All right. So we will look at in terms of transmission rate, everything in tomorrow's class. Right. Thank you.